Today we're going to be talking about my 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee SRT8 that's right behind me. We are going to be talking about the things that I love, the things that I hate, and everything right in between. That being said, I have some pretty strong opinions on some things. Just because I have a strong opinion on it doesn't mean that you do too. But feel free to comment and complain anyway, because I need the help with the algorithm anyway. So that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let's go ahead and get started on this list and see where it takes us. So I'm actually going to start this list off talking about all of the likes on the Jeep. Then I'll move on to the dislikes. Number one thing that since the day that I bought it, actually one of the reasons that I did buy it is how comfortable this Jeep is. For me, it is the most comfortable vehicle that I have personally ever owned. That being said, it's not that it's the most comfortable vehicle in the world. It's still an uncomfortable vehicle, especially for an SUV. However, to me, it's super comfortable. It is the most comfortable vehicle that I have personally ever owned. And it's actually one of the reasons that I did buy it was because I wanted something that was still pretty quick and comfortable to take on trips. So I bought it because I started going on a lot more trips than road trips that I was actually driving on, and I wanted something that was a lot more comfortable than the last vehicle that I had, which was a 2002 WS6 Trans Am. I loved the Trans Am, and I really wish that I could have kept it and gotten something else, but for all the road trips that I was doing, I needed something that was a little bigger, a little bit more comfortable, and honestly something a little more new that was a lot more reliable. The other thing that I love about the Jeep is that it handles like a sports car. When you get in it, you probably are going to think that, oh, this thing's top heavy. You're going to roll it if you try to throw it into a turn. It is not. You get in this Jeep and you can throw it into a curve just like any other sports car, and that thing handles it. They have designed it so that the center of gravity is so low on the ground that it literally handles like you're driving any other sports car, and it is the most incredible, wild feeling that you will ever feel. On top of all of that, it handles like a sports car. It's comfortable as could be. It also makes pretty good power. It makes 470 horsepower. It picks up off the line. Mine has the 5-speed transmission. Literally 2 years later, it switched to an 8-speed transmission. That being said, neither one of them are the best, so I guess it really doesn't matter. So it makes pretty good power, and you can do a lot to it and make it make a lot more power. Me personally, haven't done that yet. I actually plan on doing that here for you guys later on whenever I start actually making a little bit of money here and see what we could do out of it. The next thing that I would like to mention is all of the creature comforts. So it has heated seats, cooled seats, heated steering wheel, power windows, mirrors, whole nine. Also has a sunroof, a panoramic sunroof, which is even cooler. Even though it's also really heavy, so I kind of wish that they made inserts for it, but they don't. It also is very easily upgradable for CarPlay and things like that, and still be integrated, which is I do have done to mine. Has the steering controls. It also has adaptive cruise control, which is one of my favorite features of all new cars is adaptive cruise control. If you don't know what adaptive cruise control is, basically you set it and it has a camera in front of you that says, hey, there's a car here, and you can set the distance of what you want it to follow it, and the cruise control just automatically stays at that distance up to the speed that it's set on. By far, one of my favorite creature comforts of all new vehicles. It has a ton of room for passengers. Obviously, it's an SUV, so, take that for what you will. And also, let's not forget, one of the best things about it, I guess, is the fact that it's all-wheel drive. Now, I say I guess because it's awesome to have that traction whenever you need it. Also, to just have traction everywhere all the time, no problem. On the other hand, this kind of leads us into our dislikes. So, our first dislike is going to tie in with our last like, is the all-wheel drive system. Now, I know this is a very small thing. I know that most people are not going to care that much about it because it does have its advantages. When it's snowing and you want to go play and have fun and slide around, this is not the vehicle. You can go and you have traction everywhere and you just go where you want to go. And no matter what you do, you could turn off all of the traction control and whole nine, and you cannot slide this Jeep. It just goes where you point it and where you want it to go. You can slide it for about half a second and then it picks up traction and it goes where you want it to go. It's very unfortunate. Now, I could have pulled some fuses and stuff like that, and I could have made it slide. However, there is a lot of evidence that pulling fuses in these Jeeps and making it rear-wheel drive or disabling all of the traction and stability, it really messes with the computer and messes with your transfer case, and those transfer cases are not cheap, so I did not want to do that whenever I was trying to do it. That being said, can it be done? Yes. Is it worth possibly having come out 3, 4, 5, 6 grand? Not really, not to me at least. Maybe one day, if I'm very wealthy, I'll do it, but I'm not right now, so we're not going to do that. Anyway, the all-wheel drive system is bittersweet. It's great because you have the traction off the line, you have the traction pretty much everywhere. It's bad because it's kind of hard to have fun. You can't slide it around, but that's just kind of an all-wheel drive problem, not a Jeep problem, so take that for what you will. So the next thing is we're going to get into the suspension, which is hands down my biggest complaint about this entire Jeep. Now, it has great suspension components, and the engineering of the suspension is absolutely phenomenal. But here's where it gets tricky. There is no aftermarket suspension that actually keep the adaptive suspension controls. So basically, you are stuck either paying 5 or 6 grand for the factory shocks, which you also can't get. They all have massive lead times because obviously there was only a select few of these made in comparison to all the other Jeep Grand Cherokees. So on top of that, they never released any of the information for the shocks on the Jeep. So there's no aftermarket support for them if you want to keep the adaptive suspension. So basically your options are either pay, I think it's like 5 or 6 grand for the original manufacturing struts. You can get rid of the adaptive struts and just go with any other Grand Cherokee suspension, which nobody recommends. You can buy some Chinese knockoffs, which from what I've seen isn't the worst option, but they don't last. So it's kind of like, why am I going to spend $1,500 on Chinese knockoffs that, from what I've been told and what I've read and seen, is not worth the grand $1,500. So the next option you have is to go with some coilovers, which are a fairly newer thing. They are not adaptive to the suspension, as I said. They also they do tend to come with the plugs to get it so the light doesn't come on for the adaptive suspension not being in place. But they're also very expensive. I mean, you're still paying almost 4 grand for coilovers when, in all honesty, that factory adaptive suspension is really good. It is made by Bilstein and only Bilstein. So there's literally no other option. You cannot buy them from Bilstein. You can only buy them from Mopar, and it's just really frustrating. So anyway, that is my biggest ick about this Jeep, is the fact that you cannot buy the suspension for it without spending 5 grand on the suspension at least. So the next thing is it does have a lot of suspension noises, creaks, clicks, bangs, pops, whatever. It's had it since I got it. I don't know if it's necessarily a normal thing or if there's something wrong with my Jeep. I have looked, all of the sway bar connections, all of the sway bar bushings, the lower control arms and upper control arm bushings, all of it looks to be good. Now, this is also something that is all over the forums and has a lot of problems documented on this problem that has not been truly fixed or found. So the last thing that I did find that I haven't tried yet, aside from replacing the shocks, is the upper control arm bushing in the back, which you can't see. Sometimes that will dry rot and crack, I guess from the heat of the engine, because these 6.4s do run extremely hot. That's the only thing that I've found so far. I'm going to do it eventually. I'm sure I'll make a video for you guys, but as of right now, it's just not on my top priority. So the next thing is going to be everything for this Jeep is expensive. Everything. It does not matter what it is, where you find it, what kind of job you're doing. Everything that you possibly want for this Jeep is going to be expensive. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's going to be expensive. So just take that for what you will. If you want to take that chance, take that chance. Last thing that I've got for you guys is it is very hard to justify adding the performance parts to the Jeep. At the end of the day, it's a 5,600 pound vehicle. There's really no way around that. It's 5,600 pounds. You can gut it, and you're still over 5,000 pounds. So it's really hard to justify there. Plus, on top of that, the cost of the performance parts is not cheap. So you also have that going against you as well. There are certain things that you can do with the no spring cams and stuff like that. That's cost effective. You still have a lot of work on top of that, though. And actually, one bonus thing for you guys that I didn't actually think of until just now is the MDS system, which is where it cuts 4 cylinders and makes it a 4-cylinder on the interstates or whatever for economy reasons, fuel economy, so on and so forth. First off, it never worked. It was always a problem since day one. It causes lifter issues. It is the most obnoxious and annoying noise that you'll ever hear whenever it actually kicks in. And on top of that, you get worse gas mileage. I drove from here in Columbia, South Carolina, to Piedmont, Alabama, and left the MDS on. And I actually got 3 miles per gallon less on average on that trip than I did on the way home with it turned off. So I don't really quite understand what the point of the MDS system is. The only thing I can think of is in the perfect scenario, it helps a little bit, and that helped them with the EPA when it was designed. That being said, it's turned off now. I literally bought HP tuners for this vehicle for that exact reason, to just turn it off. I don't have a lifter tick, thank God. Eventually, I am going to have to change out the cam and lifters in the Jeep for that, but having it turned off before there's ever a problem typically helps it last a lot longer, and it just hasn't been on the top of my priority list. I have put probably about 50,000 miles on it in the past 3.5 years or so, and so far, I mean, aside from the radiator leaking, I don't really think it's given me that many big issues. It's been pretty reliable, honestly. I've put a lot of miles on it for very little problems. That's going to be it for today, guys. I will make another video on the Jeep actually very soon. I will be talking about the process of me buying the Jeep, what modifications came on the Jeep, what I have done to the Jeep, and what I plan on doing to the Jeep. And maybe we'll set a goal that if I reach X amount of followers, we will get something done to the Jeep. And I will record it for you guys and maybe even do a live stream or something while I do it. I think that'd be really fun. So that's going to be it. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.